Can we have caller one identify yourself, please?
Gosh, I am so sorry. I'd like to call the meeting of the Finance Committee to order. And Ms. Morlock, could we have roll call, please?
Yes. Member Lehman,
Present.
Member Friedrich. Absent. Member Barnett,
Present.
Member Woolrab,
Here.
Member Erickson,
Chuck Erickson is in the building.
Member Thompson.
I'm just present.
And Chairman
That's a
Metzger.
fake background, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. We need approval of the meeting minutes for April 7th, 2021 regular meeting. May I have a motion to approve these meeting minutes? I have Vice Chair Thompson is making the motion with, I think I saw Member Lehman has a second. Are there any corrections or discussion needed? All right, so for approval, if we could have a roll call vote, please. Chair will be voting tonight.
Thank you. Member Woolrab,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Member Lehman,
Yes.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Chairman Metzger.
Yes. That is a unanimous, so it passes. Do we have any appearances by members of the public or county employees?
Chairman Metzger, we do not, except for the kittens at the animal shelter.
Well, we will get to the kittens momentarily, so, so thank you very much. We're going to go on to departmental matters. 4A, Kathy Michael does not have anything to present for action. There are considerable monthly reports, which I think everyone is very accustomed to receiving and know what that content is. I believe we have Trish is on for Ms. Michael, so she's not. Oh, is that? Okay, so Ms. Michael is not here. I'm sorry, Ms. Malat, I assumed it was, I guess that's Tish versus Trish. So if anyone has any questions, I would ask that you direct those to Ms. Michael regarding her reports. I will say that one thing I was pleased to see, not pleased that there was a tie in Danvers for the village trustee, but it was quite interesting how that, how she had to handle that. And I think it was handled in a very interesting but and legal manner. They pulled a name out of the hat. So, oh, Kathy Michael just joined us. So, Ms. Michael, I was just commending you on managing the election and taking care of the Danvers Village trustee tie. On managing.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
So problems.
We are not able to hear you now. We were just a second ago. I think, Kathy, Did anyone have any questions or anything that they'd like to ask Miss Michael? No? Or if she comes back on, we'll circle back to her. So we're going to move on to 4B1, or 4B, which is Marshall Thompson of Animal Control. She has no items to present, I guess, or is our kittens a presentation? So her monthly reports exist, but if you want to share a little information about the friends that you have with you, we'd be happy to give you that opportunity.
Meow's the time to have some fun. So these little kitties are about 4 to 5 weeks old, and I have 3 with me here, although 2 are similar. I want to show you what they look like, but they're kind of squiggly, so I'll just show you here. They'll be ready for adoption at Animal Control at 12 weeks. So if you're interested in a new kitten, just reach out to us and we will help find their forever home and get them spayed and or neutered, microchipped, rabies vaccinated, registered, and all the things that they need to be healthy. So I just wanted to share them with you and thank the board for all your help and support and the community for helping these kitties and all the animals here at our facility.
Very good. Thank you so much for what you do. Our county is very proud of all the work that you and your staff put
Oh,
in.
yes, the
So-
staff deserves so much credit.
So thank you very much. Any questions or any issues or concerns that you want to bring up with animal control program? Doesn't appear to be that way, but thank you so much for sharing those lovely animals with us. Makes us happy.
When
So-
available, I'll try to, moving forward, maybe showcase one at each finance committee meeting. So we can all see what we do and accomplish together. And I just wanted to make sure, I would also like to share that we've had a lot of work done here by maintenance and facilities. And so I just wanted to make sure that we include a big shout out and thank you to their staff for helping with some repairs here at the building. So we are all a part of this process, and all the way from admin to other departments that assist our program as well as board members. So thank you. I just wanted to make sure everyone gets included. It takes a village.
Did you got a new roof, I believe, is that not correct?
They're coming, I believe, around the 15th to do the roof repair. There was a little bit of delay because of rain and weather, but we're getting that done. And our doors got fixed. So we had some sticky doors that were causing some complications and problems. And we're so happy about that. And when they heat and they're metal, so, and when they get a little worn and deteriorated, they start to sag a little bit. So maintenance came out and fixed that for us. So we are very thankful for that.
Very good, thank you. Well, I think Josh is working very hard to make sure all of that gets done through our property committee, so thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
I should
So
say
thank you,
Member
Tim. Thank you,
Barnett. I'm
Don.
sorry.
Thank you, James.
All right, very good, thank you. We're going to move on to 4C, and that is Michelle Anderson. And we have no items for action. However, if you look at your packet on page 18, I think we had an award achievement that was given to our county auditor. And so I think there's some acknowledgement and a thank you to her for doing a exemplary job and being recognized for that. So it's the award of financial reporting achievement. So Ms. Anderson, would you like to enlighten us with, it's through the Government Finance Officer Association of the United States and Canada. So please enlighten us with this award, how this award takes place.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. And I can just say that even though my son is only 8 months old, I'm really glad that he will not be meeting Marshall anytime soon. She's wonderful, but I don't need a little kitty. I feel like she could sell those. The award we received is for the CAFR, the financial statements, the 220-some page document that you guys receive in June annually. We received notice of that a couple of weeks ago, and Ms. Dreyer encouraged me to submit that for you guys, so I did. I think probably the most interesting thing is they provide a list of comments to fix in the next year's CAFR. And this year's comment was the org chart didn't have a page number. They wanted an additional fund discussed in MD&A, and they had a question about how I calculated something in the statistical section, which basically means they found no real issues with the financial. They had to find something to complain about. So we, brought up that there wasn't a page number on an org chart. So I consider that a huge win that that's all they had to complain about. So that said, our outside auditors at Clifton Larson Allen have received 2 drafts now of the financial of the CAFR. So as far as I'm concerned, we're rolling. I have no reason to believe it won't be to you guys in June. But right now that's in their hands. They've had a draft for a couple of weeks at this point. I kind of am hesitant to talk about fund balance too much since it's not audited yet, but the general fund, which is the one that we tend to look at the most closely, is going to go up probably in the neighborhood of a couple $100,000 this year, strictly general fund, not the reporting general fund for administration and the treasurer. And so, from a percent of total budget, which is kind of what we look at, the entire county $104 million budget, we're at about 10.7%. And if you look at it on days of the general fund budget, the $38 million number, it's about 106, 107 days that we have in fund balance in the general fund. The reason that that's important is because the general fund is the one fund that the county has that can literally be spent on anything county operation wise. So if the highway department were for some reason to go belly up, we could help them and buy salt. If the health department needed help buying immunizations, we can do that. So we can do anything that's relative to county government, I guess, and purchase with the general fund money, whereas the highway money can't pay Ms. Rodriguez's or I's salary. It can't help immunizations at the health department, such as that. So that's the reason we look more at the general fund for a funding situation. And, when we discuss this 100 days and you hear a number like 11.2 million, you think that's a lot of money, but that only really gets us till mid-April from a fund balance standpoint. And those of us that got mail recently from Ms. McNeil, which my husband always gets excited for, tax bills aren't due till June. So we have, a month and a half, 2 months there where we really have to, make sure that the receivables are coming in and we have the revenue. And so that's the reason we really look at fund balance, making sure we have enough.
Well, that's very good information. And actually, I would say Vice Chair Thompson and I were on the Extension Board meeting, and they asked us that question: how much fund balance, the availability do we have in a general fund? So we now have that information, Vice Chair Thompson, for future reference. So thank you for that information.
GFOA generally says somewhere 10 to 15%. But, there's certain funds that need to build up more. If you get too high, people start asking questions. I got a question today that I forwarded to Ms. Rodriguez about why we have so much in the shared sales tax fund from the city of Bloomington. It is going to go up another $1 million from what they even saw on last year's CAFR. So, there's a fine line between having enough to continue operations without, the inability to, say, cover payroll or something like that, and not having so much that people start looking at it, wondering why we're, quote, stockpiling money. So, there's that fine line that you need to teeter, but, 10 to 15% is probably pretty good.
Very, very good. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions or comments to for Ms. Anderson? Seeing none, we will move on to 4C, which is, or excuse me, 4D, which would be Becky McNeil And we have 4D1, and that is request approval of a resolution. I think yes, okay, we'll go ahead and do that one first. Approval of a resolution authorizing the county board chair to assign tax sale certificate of purchase, and that's found on page 19 and 20. And Ms. McNeil has joined us in the room, so thank you very much. Good to see you. And these again are mobile homes, right?
Correct. These are mobile homes coming for you. The first one is,
Can I get a motion? I'm sorry. Can I get a motion to put this on the floor? Mr. Erickson has made the motion, and I need a second. And Member Woolrab did second, so thank you very much. Now you can proceed. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
you're fine, thank you. And it's good to be back in this room, I might add. It's nice. So the first one is an assignment, and this is a mobile home. And we don't have a lot of assignments, so it's good to bring this forward to you. Basically, what's happened is taxpayer did not pay the taxes, the trustee acquired title to the mobile home through the court system and the statutory provisions. And the interested party, Hilltop Mobile Home Sales, stepped forward and has tendered a bid to purchase this mobile home. So it's like real estate where we convey. With mobile home, we assign the tax sale certificate, and then they go on to the Secretary of State's office and get the actual title transferred into their name.
Are there any questions for Ms. McNeil, or Ms. McNeil? It looks like Member Woolrab has a question for you.
Thank you. Ms. McNeil, could you just clarify for people how long, in this situation, using this as an example, how long this person has been in arrears on their taxes? So we have a feel for how long this process goes on for, and that we're not just swooping in the minute somebody can't pay taxes.
Oh, no, yeah.
dealing- Mhm.
This particular mobile home, I don't have the prior information captured for you. We started selling mobile homes back in, I believe it was 15. This one went to tax sale in 17, tax year 17, payable 18. And so that was the first tax sale. So it took this long to get through that tax sale process where the owner had every opportunity to redeem those taxes. And as you know, with this program, even after that redemption period expires, the trustee's office will still work with our mobile home owners to give them the opportunity to redeem. I'm guessing this one was probably a vacant mobile home that was sitting out there that was abandoned. And that's why Hilltop has stepped in. But we've got mobile home taxes going back unpaid for literally, there are some of them that go back for a decade or more. But I mean, that was prior to the tax sale process. The lawmakers in Springfield made some changes where we were able to start treating delinquent mobile homes just like real estate and taking them into tax sale. So the process changed, and the reason why the process changed was because there's so many unpaid mobile home assessments out there. And even after putting a penalty process in place, which for mobile home, it's really, really, really strict. It's put in place by the Illinois state law where it's $25 penalty per month after the due date, whereas with real estate, it's only 1.5%. So, I mean, I unfortunately, I don't have the details with me on this particular mobile home, but I can tell you that this went through initial tax sale in 17, tax year 17, payable 18. So we're here today in 2021. It takes 3 years to get through that period where the taxpayer can still redeem. And so here we are in 2021.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions for Ms. McNeil? All right, seeing none, let's vote on that motion. Ms. Morlock, please.
Member Woolrab,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Member Lehman,
Yes.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Chairman Metzger.
Yes. Motion passes. We are now to 4D1B, request approval of a resolution authorizing county board to distribute funds on a defaulted surrender. And that's on page 21 and 22. And I need a motion for that. Member Barnett makes the motion and Member Erickson does a second. And you can proceed, Ms. McNeil.
Okay, so this is a defaulted surrender. And what's happened with this parcel is that these taxes were sold in tax year 2017, payable 2018. The homeowner, again, property owner, did not redeem the taxes. The trustee went through the process of acquiring tax title. And this is a situation, as I explained earlier, where even after that redemption period expires, the trustee's office will make every effort to work with that homeowner. And in this particular case, they had a payment arrangement in place, and the homeowner made one payment and has failed to pay anything else according to their agreement. So now we have to disperse those funds. We can't just hold on to them. By contract, the trustee's office gets a portion of it, and then the other portion will go back against all the fees that have incurred at the county level. And the parcel will be offered at auction when we go into our surplus auction this summer. So, and I do not know the status, whether or not that property owner is still in this mobile home or not.
Any questions? All right, seeing none, let's take a vote on D1B. Ms. Morlock?
Member Woolrab,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Member Lehman,
Yes.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Chairman Metzger.
Yes. Moving on, D1C, accept and place on file the county treasurer's monthly financial reports. I think you all received those early this afternoon, and I need a motion to put that on the floor. Looks like Member Lehman will make that motion, and Vice Chair Thompson seconded that motion. And the floor is yours now, Ms. McNeil.
Thank you, thank you. So the very first page report is your summary of tax revenue. And these April vouchers for the sales tax side, this is the January sales that occurred here in the county. It just takes that long for us to get our portion that we receive at the county level. And there is some positive economic activity going on here in the community during January. And that is, you can see that in the sales tax numbers. Countywide sales tax was up 20%. The unincorporated sales tax was up 59%. And then you get into your income tax is up 19.6%. PPRT is up 29.31%. Overall, for the month of April, our receipts are coming in at 1.2 million compared to a little over $1 million last year. So a nice increase there for the month of 246,000. The year-to-date is 4,030,000 compared to 3.6 million in 2020. So we've got a gain of 420,000 here over 2020, which is positive. And then when we look at our budget, we are currently coming in at about 15,000 above budget, which is a nice cushion to have here at this time early in the year. So The sales tax, shared sales tax revenue that comes in from the city of Bloomington, town of Normal, those numbers are there in front of you. And you can see for the month of April, there was obviously positive results there for the city of Bloomington and the town of Normal from those January sales. The fund equity in that shared sales tax fund is $11,878,087. That fund equity is utilized to support the programs, the mental health programs that are funded in that fund, as well as transfers that are made for the various bond payments on the jail expansion. So just FYI. The property tax revenue, obviously, during the month of April, we send out tax bills, and that we mailed on Friday. And so today is like the third business day, and it never ceases to amaze me how much activity comes in the door during those first few days after those bills go out. I mean, some people have not even gotten their bill, but they're still going out to our website and printing off things and making payments electronically, and things are moving pretty quickly. So already, and it's going to be a big push to get to that first installment due date. Fortunately, first installment due date is not until June 16th, so we've got a couple extra weeks, whereas in a normal tax year, we would have about 30 days to pull in one half of the overall collection. So, and I'll get into a little bit more of that later. Motor fuel tax, you can see the increase there, and the contributions from the renewal fund, again, very positive. Have any further questions?
I don't see any. Oh, Ms. Woolrab, I'm so sorry. Ms. Woolrab, you have a question?
Thank you, Ms. Chair. On the $11 million fund balance, I'm curious as to how often transfers are made out of that to pay salaries and other expenses. Is it weekly, monthly, quarterly? How
Well, there's
often
not-
does that happen?
The county doesn't make transfers to cover salaries from that. There are salaries that are directly charged to that fund, but the county does make transfers to cover other costs and things such as our payments, bond payments. Is there anything you would like to add to that, Ms. Dryer? Okay. So obviously, with the jail expansion, our agreement with the town of Normal and city of Bloomington does have a sunset date. I believe I would have to look at the agreements, and maybe one of you can recall. I thought it was somewhere around 10 years, but we'd have to look at the agreements and see what that sunset date is. But, keep in mind, you have an expansion on the jail, which has bond payments going out beyond that. So
One, my question is, so how often, so if they're not transfers, how often is money constantly being deducted from that fund? Or is it some things we do almost on an annual basis, but is this sort of cash is flowing in and flowing out at the same time? How does that work?
In the fund, yes, there's cash flowing in the fund, and there is cash flowing out of the fund. I would have to get into the detail operation of it, but I would say that the cash flowing out of the fund is most likely probably directly related to the behavioral health program that Ms. Malat is the director of. So, for example, their payroll, their MedLife, their FICA, and so forth, and their operational expenses are being paid from this fund, okay? And then the fund also makes transfers for the bond payments. So, I mean, certainly if you want to ask the administrator's office, we can give you more detailed information as far as what came out of the fund during 2020. Okay.
That might be interesting to know. Can you roughly estimate for me how often then the bond payments are being made?
The transfers from this fund once a year? Okay. I was gonna say once or twice a year, but Kathy clarified that, once a year.
And
So
what
it's paid out of the
approximately
PBC
does
fund.
that-
The PBC,
Sorry.
we pay it out of the PBC fund the bond payments, and then a transfer is made from this shared sales tax fund to the PBC fund. We can
Approximately
provide
when
you with
does
more
that happen?
detailed information.
I'm sorry.
We can provide you with that detailed information. I don't have it at my fingertips. We can certainly
Okay.
provide it to you.
I'm concerned that, even though the balance may look large at the moment, if we do something like bond payments on an annual basis that, diminishes that fund greatly and I know that it takes a chunk out of it every year, but that it's just like the property taxes, you're putting the money aside so that the large payments can be made out of them. Because people can look at it at any given time and see it's really only a snapshot of what really happens in that fund. Is that correct?
You're correct. And it's building up now. It's building up at this point. And like I said, if you look at those agreements, I believe there was a sunset date. And whether or not the town of Normal and city of Bloomington will agree to extend those agreements would be something that the administrator's office would have to discuss with them and the county board would have to negotiate with them. But I believe the original agreements had a sunset date. So yes, it's very important to build that up so that we have the funding available to cover those bond payments because I'm quite certain they probably go out further than the actual agreement that we have with the town of Normal and city of Bloomington. But I don't have that scheduled in front of me. But if you would like that type of information, I'm sure that we can work with the administrator's office and the administrator's office can put that together for you. Yeah, so moving on into the investment report, um, we had some jumbo CDs come due during the month of April, and obviously, this is just not a great time to be looking at trying to reinvest. But we were happy. We were able to get a rate of 0.26, and those are the first 5 lines there on the report. You can see that we had 4 CDs come due during April. The reason why, and I'm just going to talk about these because it basically relates to anything else that matured during the month of April. Anchor State Bank, we had a CD out there for $200,000. The reason why their rate is double what Bloomington Normal Community Bank offered is because they don't have to collateralize. They don't have to insure that deposit because it's under FDIC. So they can give us a rate of 0.5, and that's also reflective of our positive relationship with that little bank out there in the community. Also, then the Bloomington Normal Community Bank, there are 3 of them there at $500,000. We consider those jumbo CDs. The collateralization, the cost of the collateralization is 1/4 of a point. So it did not surprise me whatsoever to see them coming in with a renewal rate at 0.26, very competitive, right where I would expect it to be given what Anchor offered us. So other than that, things are just not moving right now. There's a lot of cash available, and it's really unfortunate that, that on the investment side, we just can't really make a whole lot right now. Because that's been very rewarding in the past. We've benefited greatly from that. But unfortunately, right now, rates are not moving, and if you've listened to the Fed and different reports, rates are not going to move for quite a while. Overall, across all funds, $65,277,000. The next report is your Blue Cross Blue Shield self-insured statement. And you can see that our total cost through the month of April, $1,917,000. We are still $323,000 below 2020. But of course, there's that $200,000 credit that we got here during 2021. So it's really only about $123,000 reduction. So, but we'll continue to watch it. At least we are trending in a positive direction where we've not had any astronomical changes, and we're, staying in line with the prior year. So. One thing I do want to mention from Member Woolrab, because she had asked me last year about this, as part of our audit, we did reach out to Blue Cross Blue Shield, and all of the claims that were paid in January, February, and March, anything that was incurred but not reported as of 12/31 that related to 2020 got pushed back. So that's part of our standard entries now. I just wanted to mention that because you hadn't mentioned it yet, Member Walrub. But you had asked about it last year. Since we are on a self-insured plan, it's very important that we do that, and we are able to get those reports now so we can recognize those expenses in the year that they're incurred. So, okay. The next report is then. Thank you. The next report is the nursing home report, and this is reported through the month of March, and their year-to-date, I'm just going to move on down to the third set of numbers down there where their year-to-date accumulated revenues, $1,242,000. Year-to-date accumulated expenses, $1,874,000. This number is above where we were last year, the negative 631,000. I mean, it's higher, it's grown, but it's not significant. But at this point in time, I can tell you there's still some expenses related to the first quarter that have got to get accrued in here. The outstanding AR is currently at $3,364,000. So it dropped $65,000 compared to the beginning of the year. The cash, $366,065, drop of $910,000 since the beginning of the year. And then your fund balance is at $3,195,712, a drop of $631,000. That is that's the result of those expenditures exceeding the revenue during the first quarter. So. Any questions on that? So the next three reports are, this is just something I like to share with the committee because I know that a lot of you get questions from the public. And we put this out on our website. When the extension comes into our office, we get levy information, extension information for 200 plus taxing districts, and we basically pop it all into a spreadsheet and create this little diagram that summarizes where property taxes go. And we've been doing this for probably 10 years now, or even more, but it's very valuable information because a lot of our taxpayers think when they pay their taxes to McLean County, all of it goes to McLean County government. And a very, very small portion, actually around 9% of it only stays here in McLean County government. The rest of it goes out to our taxing districts. So the overall collection that's going to come in is $364 million. This is about $12.1 million above what we pulled in a year ago. And so it's a 3.45% increase. Of that 12.1 million, you can see down below in more detail that the school districts, the change in the amount that we're collecting for the school districts alone increased by 10.4 million. And so when you hear about the funding of schools in the state of Illinois falling on the backs of property owners, This is clear evidence right here, how much of the tax bill goes towards the funding of education. There were, of that 10.4 million, Unit 5 had the largest increase. Unit 5 went up by 7.5 million alone in 1 year, over 5%. Prairie Central went up 1.4 million, Ridgeview went up 650,000, and Olympia went up 300,000. Those were the top four. One thing I want to point out to you is where you see on CUSD 8 in Prairie Central, the change over prior year up by 47.8%. This is the result of the wind farms. The Lexington Chenoa Wind Farm came onto the property tax rolls this year. And the district, even though the district left their rate the same, so it didn't affect the taxpayers, the district benefited from a tremendous increase in taxable assessed value because of those wind farms coming on. Those wind farms, I think they run on around $30 million in taxable assessed value. So the district ended up levying 4.2 million because of that taxable EAV increase, substantial increase. It basically allowed them to keep their rate flat to their taxpayers. So I just wanted to explain why that one district went up by 47%. Any questions?
I do have a question.
Yes.
And it has to do with that. As we look at that wind farm also had a number of turbines that were in the Lexington School District,
Mm-hmm.
but we didn't see a huge increase in Lexington.
No, you did not. You did not. Lexington levied is barely a 1.5% increase. Yeah. So if I were to pull the reports, I would see that even though the EAV went up, the district kept it so that they probably levied less, so the rate would be flat. So there wouldn't be a change.
There aren't as many in the Lexington School District. I do
Yeah,
know
right.
that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, but you can see there where a district could have taken advantage of that increase in EAV and maybe didn't. So,
Okay.
and I'm not going to project anymore without further detail in front of me.
Well,
So,
you and I can look at that. I'm curious on that now
Yeah.
that you mention it.
Yeah.
So we're not going to talk about it here, but I can come and talk to you at a later date.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so, and moving on to the next report, the next report is McLean County Government's tax rate. Now, this is the rate that's certified to the county collector from the county clerk. When you guys go through budget and when you're adopting that levy, you are working off of estimated numbers. You know, the estimates are very, very, very close. But what I want you to know here is McLean County's tax rate per $100 of assessed value over the last 10 years had stayed between 90 and 92 cents. It has not moved. And that's just a great testament to the board and the budgeting process. McLean County benefits from the increase in taxable EAV, but utilizes that to budget carefully so they can keep the tax rate the same. Now, if I were to, this is a very, very zoomed in version of this graph where you can see this line that's like between, 2 pennies or between, 2 pennies there, between 90 cents and 92 cents. If I were to pull this out, it would be a straight line. So that is a great thing for McLean County, for you, the board. You always, aim to keep the tax levy the same, the rate the same, and obviously you can see that you have done just that. So the next report is talking about wind farms. We have been tracking our wind farm activity since the wind farms came on. And it's been observed by other counties. It's been observed by the Building and Zoning Department, the Supervisor of Assessments Department. We had 3 wind farms in place. We had High Trail, Old Trail, and White Oak. This year, as I mentioned earlier, we brought on the Lexington Shinoa Wind Farm. That added 57 parcels. So most of those parcels, as you mentioned earlier, Chairman, that most of those parcels are over in that Prairie Central School District. Lexington might have benefited, but it would be very, very small, most likely. But you can see overall, since the inception of the wind farms here in McLean County, the county overall has benefited from over $59 million in tax collections. And the school districts, as you know from my previous diagram, school districts get the majority of that. School districts benefited from close to 38 million. So over the last 14 years, this shows our activity. And we do have another wind farm coming on for tax year 21, payable 22. That's your Blooming Grove Wind Farm. It's my understanding that's going to bring on between 94 and 97 parcels. So that will be another opportunity or a year where taxable EAV is going to pop up. So just want to share that with you in case others ask about how many wind farms McLean County has, how many parcels are involved, what the benefit has been, and so forth.
And that Blooming Grove is actually in those same Shinoa, Lawndale, Yates. I don't think there are any Yates, but I know they have some in Money Creek Township and Gridley Township. So we'll see a little bit of variation in all of those townships.
Right. Okay.
Are there any, oh, it looks like Member Barnett has a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Treasurer McNeil, if you go back up a couple pages to your property tax breakdown, your property tax statistics page. And I know I'm putting you on the spot here, so forgive me if you prefer to research this and let me know, that's fine. I mean, of that $364 million we look to collect, do you know what percentage of that approximately, I guess, comes from Bloomington Normal proper, and what percentage comes from the outlying areas and unincorporated areas and outlying communities within the rest of the county?
I do not offhand. I'm sorry, I don't. But I don't know if this would help you just a little bit. I can come back with this information, or I can reach out to you. I would have to probably get in touch with the assessor's office and as well as the clerk's office to pull that type of information in, because we'd have to look at those townships. But on that first page there, when you look at who pays, that's down there below and between the school districts. We bill over 68,000 parcels here in McLean County. Some of those parcels are rural. Some of those parcels are, in the incorporated area of City of Bloomington, Town of Normal, and the various villages and towns out in the county. Residential property owners pay 60.7%, commercial 20.5%, farm 10.8%, industrial 0.6%. That's really all I get into. I don't get into the details of finding out specifically what area, but what you're interested in, from my understanding, is you're wanting to know what portion is from the Bloomington Normal community, and you're wanting to know then what portion is from the outlying area. Is that correct?
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm curious about. I mean, when you look at, the breakdown that you have there between residential and commercial and industrial, I mean, the vast majority of, I would assume, residential and commercial and industrial parcels are within Bloomington Normal proper. So I assume the vast majority of property taxes would be collected from there, but I didn't know if you.
Right. I don't have
just happen to
details,
know
but
that
obviously, here in McLean County and in City of Bloomington, Town of Normal, you've got State Farm, you've got Illinois, or excuse me, you've got the hospitals, you've got the various companies that industrial area there. I just can't. I'm not going to guess. I'm sorry. I'm not going to
Okay.
guess.
No, that's okay. I
But
know,
we can find out
I know
that
I'm putting you on the
information
spot.
for you.
It's all right.
We can find out that information for you. I can talk with the supervisor of assessments, and I can talk with the county clerk, see if we can get something put together, and I can email it to you. And
I think that'd
take
be
it from
great.
there.
A lot of people probably would be interested in knowing that information. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Member Woolrab,
Yes. Yes.
thank you. Member Barnett,
Yes.
Member Lehman,
Yes.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Chairman Metzger.
Yes, that motion passes. We're going to circle back to Ms. Michael. I know, I don't know if, Ms. Michael, are you, I see you're back on, so do you have anything you'd like to share with us as a committee? Doesn't appear she does, so we are going to move on to 4E1A, and that's request approval of a resolution establishing the budget policy for fiscal year 2022, and that's found on pages 23 through 30. May I get a motion on that, please? It looks like Member Woolrab made the motion, and Vice Chair Thompson made this, seconded that motion. And it looks like Ms. Rodriguez will be sharing information on, with us.
Thank you, Chairman Metzger. It's hard to believe that it's already that time of year to bring the budget policy to you. And next in line, you'll see the calendar associated with the budget policy. Staff and I made minimal changes to the document. It's in your packet for review. We already have on the calendar a department head meeting in hopes that this will meet your expectations, and then we start setting the table for getting together with department heads all throughout the summer. But I'm happy, or Ms. Dreyer or Ms. Taylor would be happy to answer any of your questions about this budget policy document. It is truly the map that we use throughout the year, and so I'm happy to answer your questions.
Are there questions? Looks like Member Woolrab has a question.
Thank you. So really, there's essentially no change in our thinking on what needs to be prioritized since this current year. Is that correct?
I don't know if this budget policy document has necessarily ever prioritized anything in particular. Of course, it gives guidance on what department heads need to do to request capital improvements or different positions. I think I would always look for the county board to strategize and prioritize in that regard through a strategic planning process. But this particular portion is a policy document that guides. I don't know if it sets priorities, but we're always happy to talk at some point about those. I hope I'm answering your question. I want to be open to your understanding what you're trying to accomplish.
So let me explain a little bit. so I've recently been reappointed to the property committee as the vice chair, and member Barnett, of course, is the chair of that. And it's been a number of years since I've served on that committee before, but it's come to my attention as a member of that committee that there are numerous places in the county that are severely wanting for maintenance. And let me say at the beginning of this that this is no reflection on staff or the department heads in these areas. I really and truly believe that there's been that we need to provide the resources for these people to get these things done, because there are just numerous places in the county that seem to be in desperate need, dire need of repairs and maintenance and replacement of items. I think one of the things that it came to my mind was, if you have a car, you need to change the oil, or and that's a very inexpensive procedure. But if you don't do it, you're looking at an engine replacement in your car. And you could say many things similar in your own home. And I think we've had numerous cases where we have, for lack of ongoing maintenance or making small repairs, we're now faced with big dollar ticket items for rehabilitating buildings. And we could go into the details of what they are, but I don't want to do that here. I want to take time. What I want to see us do is to, and we also have a Blue Ribbon Committee a number of years ago that made a number of recommendations for our nursing home that would have required some investment in capital improvements there that seem to not have been completed at this point. And I maybe stand to be corrected, but since I'm not on the health committee any longer, but I do not want to see our infrastructure essentially crumble and to a point where it cannot be repaired, or it's unsafe or unsightly. I was recently at Kamara Park, and I could share you some pictures I took. I go there quite often, and they're just things that for perhaps easily under $10,000 would make such an important visual impact if they were repaired and replaced or maintained. And I really am concerned that, if we keep doing what we've been doing, those kind of things won't get attended to. So I'll leave it at that and let you respond. Thank you.
Member Barnett, let's see if Ms. Rodriguez has any comment, and then we'll circle back to you, okay?
Thank you, Chairman Metzger, and thank you, Member Woolrab. Certainly staff wishes we could invest in not only upgrades to things that are in disrepair or that are failing, or in beautification. I think one thing, and I mean absolutely no disrespect to this membership or the larger county board membership, but I think one thing to me that is a direct line of consequence is the fact that what our treasurer just showed us, that for at least the last 10 years, we've stayed at the same tax rate. And I think the investment in our facilities, in our employees, which to us in county administration is always our most wonderful and valuable resource, our employees. And Member Woolrab, if I may, you and Member Metzger have often said, what about salary studies? And are we going to, meet market on some of all of our employees' salaries? Can we compete? And some of that you'll see in the actions that we're requesting this evening. So I'll say, I think we have staff that are at the ready to make those improvements, to have a culture of protecting our assets and maintaining our assets in our buildings and in all of the parts that keep the buildings running. I think staff is limited with the the budget that we have and the constraints where we're also confluencing with the regulatory requirements in other parts of the organization. I could go on. It's a complex discussion, but I feel great that you're bringing it up, and I hope the membership again doesn't perceive or take what I'm saying as a complaint. It's truly a fact. You saw that since 2010 or so, we've fluctuated only by a cent. I think last year I recommended a cent higher, and I was directed to take it back down. And that limits our ability to invest in the things that you're suggesting. And we're always trying to think outside of the box, but when a department head will come to us with a suggestion about an investment, then we actually do say to them, then where will you take away in your existing operations?
Well, and I think that's exactly where I'm headed with this. No one wants to raise taxes, and I'm not suggesting necessarily that we raise taxes, because it would seem to me the briskness of the housing market here in Bloomington Normal, at least, may portend perhaps an increase in EAV down the line. And I know that that's not recognized for a number of years, but we could make an assumption that there will be some future revenues, including what we just saw with the wind farms, which of course we know not all, very little of that actually goes to the county, most of it goes to the school districts. So that caveat being aside, but I think because we're being, it's a, what is it, pound, a stitch in time saves nine kind of thing. You can be foolish with your pennies, and then you're being charged a fortune down the road to make something like I mentioned about the car and the engine. You don't put the fresh oil in your car, you're going to need a new engine. And that's, and that is not a good way to spend taxpayer dollars, by pinching pennies every year and saying we cannot raise the tax rate, because things, after all, things do become more expensive over time. And we have numerous instances now where we have to make large dollar investments just to keep things patched together. And I, frankly, am quite tired of seeing that. So I would like to make some kind of a change to the way we're doing things. We don't have to take the same document and change the year every year and make that our working document. We can add something to it and be more thoughtful. So
thank you. And I think, if I may, Chairman Metzger, sort of not in response, but sort of to go with what Member Woolrab just said, I don't think staff felt perhaps comfortable to do that, because it presumes perhaps a recommendation to increase taxes, and that would never be necessarily our place in space. The totality of the budget process and what we bring to you in each oversight committee and how it all confluences together, especially even with the capital improvement plan at the end of the process. Hopefully that will be part of the discussion. But one of the reasons we didn't take that bold step is because we didn't want you to presume that we assumed that that would be a consequence. And the investment, of course, would be, maybe, let me rephrase. I do think it would take actions oriented to formalized assessments of almost a status of our buildings and their workings. Someone to tell us what would it take to invest in our structures to make them beautified and updated and to last the long term. And then how do we plan to invest in that? Because obviously it couldn't be all done at once. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Member Barnett wants to speak.
Yes, Member
so.
Barnett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, so what Member Woolrab was talking about, I mean, this is a real issue. Since I become the chair of the Property Committee, every year, every month, at every meeting, we're hearing about, deferred maintenance on this, deferred maintenance on that. This broke because it wasn't fixed properly the first time several years ago, and now we're having to spend more money to fix it again. A great example is something the Property Committee is going to be looking at a bid on next week. There is what we affectionately call the poo pit out of Kamlara Park, where all of the waste from people who use the park go. that pit should have been cleaned out and properly cared for, every few years for the past several decades. Well, guess what? When the department director went to the previous administration and asked for money to do that, he was told that it wasn't in the budget. And now taxpayers in this county are going to have to fork out about $100,000 in one chunk to take care of that problem. That is one example that we are continuing to deal with our facilities and with the lands that they're on. And I think it would be a good thing, and I'm happy to take that through property committee, but this is the committee that sets the budget policy. We need to be forward thinking in taking care of our buildings and our facilities that we own and that we manage in conjunction with the PBC. We have to. And I mean, I hear stories from staff that in the government center, they try to open the blinds in their office that hang there, and as soon as they touch them, they crumble because they're 40 years old. Now, those aren't things that you can go out to Target, right, and spend $20 on to replace. That's a major investment to go through and to replace something like that in a building of that size and have a commercial grade so it will last another 40 years. But when I hear stories like that, I say, well, why don't we get some bids and replace them? And the answer comes back because there's no money in the budget. I would like to see us, and if it's through this budget policy that's here or in another document that we need to put together, start to prioritize maintaining the buildings and the land that the taxpayers have entrusted us with. I'm not suggesting that we need to make any grand halls or, I don't want anyone to think I'm talking about turning all of our buildings into granite like we're in Washington, D.C. or something like that. I'm talking about providing a good working standard and being good stewards of what taxpayers have entrusted us with. And if we need to make a motion to amend this document in some way to make that a firmer priority, I would be happy to offer that. But I guess I would look to staff and to you, Madam Chair, to see how it would best work to move something like that forward and give the committee a chance to talk about it. Thank you.
So there is discussion then that we need to consider a potential amendment to this. And I'm not sure how that takes place. So let me ask, does this document have to be approved this evening?
Well, I hadn't speculated that it wouldn't be. If it were not, and if it waited until next month, or if we were directed by this committee to come back with an amendment that encapsulated this discussion, we could, at your pleasure, bring it to stand up finance ahead of county board. I know that committees do not love stand-up meetings, but at least that would keep this moving along in the same process. We'd also have to have a stand-up executive, of course, and that would keep us on track with the proposed schedule. I know it would cause staff probably a bit of concern if we waited until after the full board cycle in June to commence this process, but I would have Ms. Dreyer or Ms. Taylor let me know if I'm correct in that assumption or not.
Member Barnett?
Could I make a suggestion? If it would be this committee's will to move forward with something like that, could we have a special stand-up ask meeting of finance right before the executive committee meeting on Monday? And if Member Lehman would be available to join, because I think everyone else on I guess Member Thompson as well.
Thompson and Member Friedrich also.
Yeah. If they'd be available to hop on at that time, if that would make things easier for staff anyway.
Chairman Metzger.
Yes. Ms. Dreyer, is that correct? Please.
I just wanted to note that it is, time sensitive that this be approved during the May cycle. If, as, department heads start to enter their budgets in June, and they have to have them all entered by July in order for us to start, the budget preparation, putting the budget numbers together. And if this goes to the June committee, that puts everything behind and it rushes the department heads in preparing their budgets.
Member Erickson, please.
Yeah, I mean, couldn't this stuff come in at a different point in the budget process when, in September, that if a particular committee chair or committee thinks more money needs to be allocated into certain parts of the budget, couldn't that be raised then? I mean, isn't that the place where it would be raised? That's a question first, not a comment. Someone?
I think we need somebody from staff.
Yes.
Well, certainly, if I may, Chairman Metzger, to Member Erickson's question, it is the process for department heads and their staff to bring forward requests during the budget process. It is also part of the budget policy document to set the parameters at which departments will and will not be able to work within this policy document. So even before we come to committee meetings later on in the process in front of you, we've often said no to department heads quite a bit because they are coming with those requests, but staff and county administration says, thank you so much for asking. In fact, we do even encourage them to ask for what they think they need. And we often say no, and it doesn't even come to your table because we have set the budget at such a level to be congruent with what we expect the board will approve. I hope that makes sense.
Well, I have a follow-up request. I'm on. All right. I have a follow-up request. I mean, if we're going to go this route, then I would like to get a report over the last 10 years that how much the unencumbered general fund has changed over the last 10 years. I'd also like to get a report that how much our budget has gone up each year in that 10-year period. Because our budget hasn't stayed static, it goes up every year, okay? And that's because we have increasing revenue, either from sales, property sales or property taxes or some other source that it may come from. And then also in regards to Kamlara Park, I mean, if we're gonna go into this discussion too, I'd like to have some indication over the last 10 years, what's been their fee arrangement, what type of fees they charge, and have they raised any fees in the last 10 years? I mean, because I think there's more than, and I think the issue is larger than just the budget policy. You know, and I think those are the facts that before we can make a decision, we're going to need to know that information as well. So.
It looks like member or Vice Chair Thompson has a question or a comment.
More comment. I think it's more about a culture. I mean, we ask about reference to property committee in specific. What do we need to do? What needs fixed? And we kind of got a nothing, and then all of a sudden we had a crisis. So I think there's a culture that's the staff needs to know that it's okay to ask. We may say no, but it's okay to ask. And if we don't ask, we don't know. So it's okay to give us your wish list, right? And if it doesn't work, that's okay. But I think just changing the culture and letting people know that, you know, it's okay. And we do want to move forward. And like you said, we don't want the buildings falling apart. We do have a lot of buildings. And I will tell you, when you have a lot of buildings, you're going to have repairs. That's just a function of reality. I deal with that with what I do. But yeah, and I agree with what Member Erickson just said is also, I mean, it's kind of a two-sided street. Maybe we need to look at fees out there at the park and things like that. So I think it's a bigger question and a culture we need to change, but something we do need to address.
Member Metzger, if I may.
I'm sorry. Yes, Cassie, you have Ms. Taylor has a comment.
So I do believe that this document that we have a motion on can be amended later in the year as we go through the budget cycle. And I do believe that the information that Member Erickson requested could be available at the next meeting for us to review. I would like to remind the committee that as part of this budget policy, we are creating a capital improvement plan. And at that point, we might have a better idea of what those needs and what those costs are as we move forward. And we could amend sections of this budget policy to be congruent with those needs after we look at the figures, because I do think the fund balance that is under 15% currently is something to be reviewed, as well as the tax rate.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think that a stand-up, and I'm raising my hand to make a comment now. I think a stand-up is not an appropriate place for these kinds of changes. Not only, even if it was only what Member Woolrab and Member Barnett brought forward, but as identified through Member Erickson, I think we do need to look at a bigger picture. And I would personally prefer to take the direction that Ms. Taylor has said, to approve this as it stands, put it on our agenda for next month to have potential amendments, and then we can study information that would be helpful in making an amendment to this. I mean, I know that when I was on the Transportation Committee, that there were millions of dollars that we didn't have the funds to do long-term maintenance in the millions of dollars. And so we had the county engineer put together, here's his wish list. And as Member Thompson, or as Vice Chair Thompson said, if we just keep that wish list in a drawer, it doesn't help the county board make decisions. So I'm not sure if you want to open Pandora's box to ask every department what they want, but I think potentially allowing them to request things as opposed to shutting it down might be a better direction. But if the committee doesn't mind, I'd like to proceed to approve this and then put it on the agenda for next month, and we can look at it in more detail. Member Woolrab.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I have a two-part comment here, and I appreciate willingness to move forward with looking at this and the culture change, I think, important. I wouldn't say that we would ask the staff what they want, but I think we would want them to highlight the critical infrastructure issues that they're facing, where they know best what is the most important thing to address now, so we're not dealing with huge costs in the future. So I would ask them at least to start with that. My second and completely different comment here has to do, it is maybe more a question, with the money that I understand the county is going to receive from the federal government due from the pandemic legislation that was passed by Congress. And I wanted to know, when do we expect to get that? And where does that come into this budget document? And how can this committee become part of the process, understanding? What I'm going to request is an overview of what we're going to receive, and maybe it's a legal opinion on what we're allowed to spend the money on. And then I would like to know how we become involved in making a decision about how that money gets spent.
Um, Can we take that topic and move with that after we talk about the direction on this? Or do you
I'm
believe
make
it's
a motion
important
we-
that
I'm going to make a motion that we include a separate piece in this document, after all, for this year, that is going to specifically address that money, assuming, and I'm not assuming that it's going to be coming in next fiscal year, not this fiscal year. I think that's part of my question, or the following. I'm not sure what the timeline is completely on that, but for any monies that may become due to us in the budget year that we're addressing here, that we specifically have some oversight into where and how that money is going to be spent. And I'm not sure of the wording on that, but I think that belongs in the budget policy document.
can we do that in an amendment?
I'm making a motion to amend it right now.
Is there a second? Ms. Lehman seconds it. All right. We need to vote on that amendment. Conversation, I'm sorry, I didn't allow that to take place. So, Member Barnett.
Just a quick question. I don't know if this is for Administrator Rodriguez or Assistant Administrator Dreyer. Do you, and maybe you don't know, do you guys have any idea how much money we are going to be receiving from the federal government?
The preliminary information we received was around $34 million, and that it has to be spent by 2024. I know I'm going a little outside of your specific question, but also for Member Wolrab, we don't know when we're getting it. We've received very little guidance on how it should be spent. And most of our information is coming from like membership organizations like the National Organization of Counties. But little has come congruently from the IRS as any guidance relative to some of the parameters that are set within those initial documents. Long story short, we don't know a lot, but would definitely want to be planful with it and follow the requirements therein that come with the receipt of those dollars.
That is certainly enough money that I would like to see it put in some the plan for that included in some sort of formal document like this. Thank you.
Member Erickson.
I mean, do we have the ability to even touch that money yet? I mean, we don't know what the federal government is telling us it has to be spent on and what it doesn't have to be spent on. Is there going to be strings attached to that and certain spending allocations that have to be made with those dollars? That's a question. I don't know.
If I may, Chairman Metzger, that is exactly the issue, Member Erickson. We have very little guidance. There are some pieces of guidance that have come out and have been shared with counties, but it isn't highly specific. So we'll have some idea. In the Illinois Association of County Administrators recent meeting where I liaise with other county administrators, we are all brainstorming on what we are going to do and talking with each other, but we just don't have enough of the specifics. However, we do expect, we're not certain, but we do expect to get some of that money in the coming weeks or even couple of months. We could see an ACH transfer and it will show up. So we will need to be at the ready and planful relative to the receipt of those dollars and what we will do with them strategically as a county.
if we can amend the budget, the policy later, I mean, wouldn't it be prudent to amend it later when we know more what we can do with those funds than try to say what we should do with those funds today?
That's a point that's a point you're making.
Yeah, it's a point I'm
And-
making, but there's also other committees that serve on the county that, like Justice, I'm sure that, the Supreme Court said a few years ago, you've got to do electronic filing. Well, we don't have the best electronic filing system over there. I mean, it works, but I mean, if we're going to start talking about, well, then I'm going to have people come in from Justice and say, we need some more money for the filing system, and we need money for that. So there's all kinds of needs. I mean, but I'm a little hesitant to just sit there and say, we're going to allocate this much for this committee or for this group right now. I mean, I can't vote in favor of this amendment.
Member Woolrab.
I think the idea behind my amendment was not specifics. It was to get first of all, to be kept up to date, appraised of what's coming into the county for the fiscal year that we're going to be dealing with next fiscal year here, and to get a very good understanding of what we can use those monies for, what are our options, and not make the decisions in here necessarily for every department, but so that we are an oversight committee on the county's finances. So we should have, if we don't have an understanding of the big picture here, there's no committee that's going to have that. I mean, that's where the oversight belongs, is with this committee. And I think we ought to be able to at least express an opinion, if not complete, and although maybe not completely directed, but we ought to certainly be aware of what our options are. And that's really what I'm asking for here, is not to direct the funding at this point, but to understand the funding and when it's coming in and what it can be spent on, and have a discussion of where the money could be spent.
Member Erickson.
I understand that sentiment, but I just don't know why we can't just amend it later when we know more about what the money is and what's coming in. I mean, I don't know why we have to do that today.
Document now. That's why I don't see a reason to wait. We're trying to set
Okay.
budget policy for the fiscal year, and I think we ought to be doing it now.
Member Woolrab, if we are going to put this on the agenda for next month, I am going to vote no on this amendment, not because I don't agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. I think we need to get wording, and we need to make the amendment to this document in a logical and, well, not that it would be illogical, but take our time to put that in the right format. And so I would not vote to rush through that today. And so I do think we need to include it moving forward, though. So if this amendment does not pass, then we need to direct the administration to work on amending this document to include that, as well as the other concerns that we have regarding property. And potentially, I know that there are some needs for our rural assessors, need some technology that doesn't exist because it's a large purchase that hasn't happened. So, I mean, we can go on and on. And so that's where I stand. And if we can, Member Thompson, you had something you wanted to say, Vice Chair Thompson?
Yeah, excuse me. Yes, I do. Yeah, I think we're a little premature. I agree with you, Member Woolrab, but I think we're premature. Getting the information and knowing exactly what we're dealing with, I think would be an appropriate time to do that. Secondly, just the depth of this whole discussion. trying to tack it on to a regularly scheduled meeting. I know we all don't like meetings, but this is a big deal and it's important. And I think considering a special meeting to discuss this, I think might not be a bad idea, just because, I mean, it's to try and rush through this, we're doing it a disservice and not even taking time to do it right, I don't think. And it
Okay.
just, I just think that's wrong. If we're going to do it, let's do it right.
Okay,
I would agree
Member
to withdraw
Woolrab?
my motion. I agree to withdraw my motion if we will be, I have your word, I guess, now, that we, and Member Thompson, I agree, it's a very big issue, and I think it deserves full and further concern on our part. So if we are going to be dealing with this then next month and we can get more information and administration can do a little bit of more information for us, that would be great. So I'll withdraw my motion and
We would
hopefully-
have to have the second withdrawn also, I believe, do we not? Or can you help us with that? We've got our state's attorney here. That one, yeah.
I
I would suggest also either, yes, withdrawing the second or voting on it. Member Woolward can vote against it if she wants to.
if I may, I'll withdraw my second. Again, speaking to what Member Woolrab suggested, and ensuring that we have an opportunity to discuss it at length, either next month or in a special called session.
Very good. I agree. I think a special meeting to specifically discuss this may be the best thing to do, because what we have now is we've been moving along with a lot of things, and instead of focusing on the one document, and the importance of that is critical. So I will work with administration to get a special meeting of the Finance Committee, definitely before June. I realize that we've got all these other meetings, but I think we really, as we've all agreed, we need to focus on this and spend a little bit more time. So the motion has been withdrawn, the second has been withdrawn. And can we vote to go ahead and approve this as it stands, and then work on amendments in a special meeting? Is everybody willing to vote tonight just to get this started? All right. Ms. Morlock, please take a roll call vote on E1A.
Thank you. Member Woolrab,
yes,
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Member Lehman,
Yes.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Chairman Metzger.
Yes. Motion has passed, and as I said, I will work with administration to send out something to find the latter part of this month to see if we can get some time for all of us to get together. All right? Moving on, E1B, and that is the schedule, the calendar, Schedule A, calendar preparation for the fiscal year 2022 budget, 5-year capital improvement budget, and recommended 3-year budget. So we have a calendar. Can I get that as a motion to put it on the floor? Looks like Vice Chair Thompson. And we have a second with Member Barnett. And Ms. Rodriguez, can you proceed?
Thank you, Chairman Metzger. There's not much to explain. It's self-explanatory. It lays out the map that drives county administration and department heads and staff into compliance with all of the requisite activities that need to occur ahead of the November county board meeting, where we hope we successfully pass a budget. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions or comments regarding this Schedule A? Seeing none, excuse me, Ms. Morlock.
No, thanks, Chair.
At this point, we might be all saying that you are, please.
Member Woolrab,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Member Lehman,
Yes.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Member Erickson.
Is this nominating Julie to the board or?
No, it is
No, it's
not.
not. Okay. Yes, then.
Approval of the
Schedule
Schedule
A.
A.
All right,
minutes.
I know, thanks.
I'll take that as a yes for the schedule, Chuck. Thank you.
Yes, on
Chairman
both.
Met- okay, oh, Chairman Metzger.
Yes, motion passes. We're moving on then to E1C, and that's request a position reclassification, request approval of a position reclassification request from the Public Defender's Office, and that is on page 33 through 37. And Ms. Rodriguez, I believe we have somebody from the Public Defender's Office here. So I'm
We
not sure
do.
if
We
you
have-
are going to proceed or if we have our public defender.
We should likely, we should respectfully, I suggest take put a motion on the floor ahead of discussion,
Oh,
but
gosh,
Mr.
yes, I'm
Lewis is
sorry.
here.
Please, we
Mr.
need a
Lewis is
motion.
here to provide clarification.
Very good. We need a motion. Oh, I'm sorry. Member Erickson made the motion and Member Woolrab seconded that. Thank you for getting me straight. And it looks like our public defender office is on our screen. So please proceed.
Go ahead, Mr. Lewis. If you'd like to just allude to your memo and expound any impertinent information.
Yes, thank you. We've documented our request in memorandum. This was an item that was initially started by Ms. Barnes when she was still a public defender. The interim public defender was carrying it through, and as I said at Justice Committee last night, I'm the one finishing it up here. But the reasons for our request are documented in the memorandum. I'm here for any questions and would ask for your support. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, Ms. Morlock?
Member Woolrab,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Member Lehman,
Yes.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Chairman Metzger.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you very much for joining us from the Public Defender's Office, and thank you for all that you do for our county.
Thank you.
We are now moving to E1D, request approval resolution amending the fiscal year 2021 McLean County full-time equivalent position for the behavioral health FUSE, and that's found on page 38 through 40. May I have a motion to put that on the floor, please? It looks like Vice Chair Thompson made the motion, and a second by Member Barnett. And I believe we have Ms. Malat with us this evening. So if you would like to proceed, we would be happy to hear what you have to say.
Thank you. We have an individual who has been a part of the FUSE team actually since inception, and the original structure of the team was collaborative and with a contract with another service provider in the community. And we recently received notice of that provider wishing to terminate the contract, largely due to the number of open positions they have within their own agency. And has provided the appropriate notice given the contract language. So as a result, I am sending through finance first, and then we'll also take it to executive committee next week. The request to be able to hire that individual as a county employee. Again, it's a person who has been in the position for nearly 2 years now, just funded for a contractual line rather than as a county employee.
Are there questions? All right, seeing none. Ms. Morlock, please.
Member Woolrab,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Member Lehman,
Yes.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Chairman Metzger.
Yes. Motion passes. Moving on to E1E, and that's request approval of an amendment to the McLean County General Compensation Plan of non-union employees related to McLean County Nursing Home CNA rate, so that's Certified Nurse Assistant rate increase, found on pages 41 through 43. And I believe I did see Terry from the nursing home. And I know we talked about this at Health Committee, so if you would like, we need to have a motion to put that on the floor. And it looks like Member Lehman made the motion, and we had a second through Vice Chair Thompson. And our Director of, I guess Camille will talk about that. I'm so sorry. I assumed
No,
it was the other
Chairman
way
Metzger,
around.
it's quite all right. Nursing Home Administrator Edens is here. We like to team up together on these particular issues, just so I don't misspeak. But the memo speaks for itself. Simply stated, we have had challenges like lots of other long-term care facilities in the community and in the state in keeping our certified nursing assistant positions filled. It's a hard to fill position. It is one of the lowest paid positions in that particular department. And when we were analyzing what we could do to increase interest in the position and to promote longevity, we noticed that we, as a county government, started CNAs at around $5 per hour less than our competitors. That's pretty significant. And so we thought that the best way to alleviate that particular issue is to take this type of action, and it does involve your approval. We told the Health Committee this last night, as was mentioned, and I know that the numbers speak for themselves. We are filling these positions right now with agency, and we mentioned the Blue Ribbon Panel earlier in our discussion. One of their recommendations was to reduce the amount of agency that we are using. But I'm sure you also know that there are regulatory requirements, and Ms. Edens and her Director of Nursing, they don't want the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services or the Illinois Department of Public Health to walk in and they don't have the staffing ratio on hand and at the ready. So we pay for that, and we pay dearly, almost $30 to $40 an hour sometimes for a certified nursing assistant from an agency. So we want to invest. This is a lot, again, like our discussion about investing in buildings, it's investing in our community and in staff that we can have at our nursing home that work for us, that are county employees. And we just think it's so important. If you have any other questions that need Ms. Eden's expertise, she is here. Thank you.
Ms. Woolrab.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So if we're seeing rates out there between 16 and 18 an hour, and we're paying, I think, what did you say? Did you say $30, $40 an hour for agency? Of course, I assume we're not paying benefits on those, but even if, with benefits, and we're looking at raising this to $13.99 an hour, I still don't see how we're going to be competitive with the other nursing homes in the area. Maybe you could elaborate your thoughts on that.
Thank you. I would also look to Ms. Dryer or Ms. Taylor to expound on the pay rate changes. They did the lion's share of that work. And if they might, please, sorry to put you on the spot,
No.
Assistant County Administrators, but I know you did the math here.
The $13.99 an hour is if they start at the current step 40. We are looking to increase step 1 from $11 an hour to $16.75 an hour, which would make us more competitive.
So that means you could start anywhere in that range.
Correct.
Correct. Okay, very good. Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Oh, I'm sorry. Member Erickson.
That's okay. I'm not on the screen, so.
I know, I was looking
I
at
had
the
that,
screen.
I had that problem last night. You're trying to look at who's here and who's on the screen, and sometimes you miss people. No, I just want to point out that I don't have any problem giving these people pay raise, but it just goes to the whole budget policies. It's, you have to prioritize, and, you know, this is a priority and maybe this isn't a priority. And this is a priority one year and maybe that isn't a priority this year. So I don't, we have been prioritizing away from them for the last several years. And so we're gonna get it to where we think it ought to be this year, but everything's a priority, and whether something should be funded or not funded has to be based on, where it stacks in the rank of priorities. So, thanks.
All right. I think we have no other questions, so if we can vote on this, Ms. Morlock?
Member Woolrab,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Member Lehman,
Yes.
Member Thompson. Did I miss him? Member Thompson?
He's got it. He's
Oh.
giving us a thumbs up.
Oh, okay.
and
All
There he is. We got him.
right, thank you. Member Erickson,
Yes.
Chairman Metzger.
Yes. And we have one more, E1F. Request approval for an administrative adjustment in the Health Department Fund 0112, Vaccine Supervisor, found on page 44 to 45. May I have a motion, please? Member Woolrab makes the motion and a second by Member Lehman. All right. I'm assuming that this comes through Ms. Rodriguez again?
Thank you, Chairman Metzger. I will note that Health Department Administrator McKnight is with us, and I think I'm going to pass the baton to Ms. McKnight to have her share a quick overview with the membership and answer questions.
Very good. Thank you. Ms. McKnight, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. So there are currently 7 health department nurses that are taking on significant additional duties and responsibilities as vaccine supervisors for the COVID-19 vaccine clinics. So the proposed would temporarily increase their pay rate by 5%, only for hours coded as working in that position at those vaccine clinics. And the budget amendment that you have before you is estimated cost through the end of November, just to coincide with the mass vaccination grant that we have from IDPH, because none of us really have any idea how long this is going to last, but just as an estimate for us.
Very good. Thank you. Questions? Seeing none, Ms. Morlock, can we vote on the motion, please?
Member Woolrab,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Member Lehman,
Yes.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Chairman Metzger.
Yes. Motion passes. And are there any other E2A, any other items for presentation?
No, there are not. Thank you.
We have recommendation for payment of bills from, for the county to, they've been approved by the auditor, and we have a total of $675,873.42. Can I have a motion to pay these bills? Vice Chair Thompson with a second by Member Lehman. And Ms. Morlock, please.
Member Woolrab,
Yes, yes,
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Member Lehman,
Yes.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Chairman Metzger.
Yes. Are there any other business or communications? Ms. Woolrab.
thank you once again. I think this is sort of follows from some of the previous discussion that we've had tonight. And I don't know the answer to this question, but if Mr. Doherty has had some open positions, there's been open maintenance positions, I think, also at in the Parks Department. And I think whether those are still open or not, I don't know. But if we're still having difficulty recruiting those and are unable to fill them, I would like to see a similar recommendation for to at least to have updated salary data from the rest of the nearby community, so that we can do the same thing for those folks as we're doing for these people, and maybe get some of those positions filled. So if maybe that could be part and parcel of our next special meeting, or when we're going to be discussing budget again, as we were talking about earlier, that would be I would appreciate that. Thank you.
So we could potentially put that on the agenda for our special meeting, okay? When we put the agenda together, we will definitely include that. Ms. Morlock, if you remind me, please. Mr. Barnett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Member Wolfram actually kind of stole my thunder there. That's okay. But yeah, Mr. Doherty has had, has had issues hiring folks for, some of those frontline maintenance and custodial positions. And when you go out to, LinkedIn or Indeed and look at, what other companies are paying for similar type positions, we're not paying enough. We're certainly not, keeping up. And I'm not talking about, $80,000 a year salaries or anything like that. I mean, these are, frontline workers. And I don't know if other, committees or other areas within the county have similar issues with some of their frontline staffing needs, but kind of makes me wonder if we ought to be looking at a salary study, or at least having some kind of broader discussion about that if we have multiple departments that are finding issues hiring people. Thank you.
Excuse me, Administrator Rodriguez.
Thank you, Chairman Metzger. County administration has noticed the challenges, obviously, that, as you noted, Mr. Doherty is experiencing, and it was actually our intention to take a slightly different approach and add some of those positions that he has seen leave the organization for competitors in town and at higher wages, and add those positions to our impacted positions list. Part of Chapter 116, your county board policy, allows for a different sort of algorithm of how salaries are set if those positions are impacted. Now, the reason we're taking that sort of approach at this moment and ahead of budget policy time is because we are working and we are having our two HR staff in county administration try to commission a salary study, because we would suspect that almost all departments would say, as a county government, we pay under what industry pays. And what I'll say, I've said it to staff, and I'm just going to say it now, We have to be ready to do something with the results. And that goes a long way with what Member Woolrab brought up today and all of the wonderful discussion that the membership brought up of investing in our county government, whether it's a building or whether it's a staff. And if we commission this salary study and the results say that we should increase all of the salaries, are we going to do it? I'm not asking anyone to answer it, but I'm just saying, if we dip our toes in that water, we're going to have to be ready to at least have even a tiered plan of how we will address this in years 1, 2, 3, and 5, and set those expectations with employees. Because I know people work for McLean County government because they are public servants and they love it here. And we are a great place to work. But sometimes also we know we pay under standard. So with that said, we had intended to bring some of Mr. Doherty's positions through that impacted, just ahead of then not having all the other departments who really would also like to see a salary increase in that pay grade range, for them to come and ask the same, rather than take that. I mean, I would prefer to take that more strategized approach of a salary study, but I'll work at the pleasure of the committee. I just wanted you to know we had good intentions with Mr. Doherty in that regard, but we were waiting one more month for lots of other reasons. So anyway, thank you.
So Ms. Woolrab and Mr. Barnett, based on that information, do we want to have that discussion at our special meeting, or do we want to wait and see where this goes? Member Barnett.
Yeah, I'd certainly be fine taking the staff's lead on that. I don't, it can be a busy month for, May's gonna be a busy month for staff. I don't want to, make them rush through that. And so I'm okay holding off on that for, July, August, whatever would be appropriate.
Okay, very good.
I'm also okay. I just want to put out a caveat that this impacted position list that we've had for years and years is a Band-Aid approach to what Ms. Rodriguez was just discussing, which is a salary survey, which should be conducted. I know I was a compensation manager, so I speak with some authority on this topic, that it should be conducted periodically every few years. And so I'm very glad that that is out there on the table. And she's absolutely right that, once you have that information, it's incumbent to act on it, but because not because we want to pay people so much more money, it's because we need the people to do the work that's there and pay them appropriately for the work that they do. So thank you, Ms. Rodriguez, for planning on doing that.
Thank you.
Member Erickson, please.
No, I just had a thought. I mean, I saw that Marshall Thompson was very good at herding cats, so I thought maybe we could make her the official county board member cat herder and let her do that and see if she can do it better than anybody else. So.
Obviously, I've been challenged tonight, so Ms. Thompson might want to take this role. So, please make us smile again. Thank you. Thank you very much. We like the.
Happy to help. Whatever you need, just let me know.
I think based on that, we can be adjourned.